I mean, what's wrong with Space Marines in love? I think that's great. Who doesn't want to see epic space stories with love and romance and fighting and loss and betrayal and growth and all this other stuff? It's the stuff of a good film. I don't understand why he's criticizing these things that all sound like great aspects of the movies to me. He then talks about the release date and compares it to Titanic being released in the winter when it was supposed to be released in the summer, and he seems to credit that with the movie's overwhelming success. And there may be something to that, but we're at the time now where everybody who makes more serious films, the ones that they are trying to get the Academy Awards for, those always get released in the winter. That's been going on for a long time now. Why would Cameron release Avatar in the summer now? It isn't just a mindless blockbuster. This isn't Shanghai Nights. This isn't Transformers. This is a really great movie with a lot going on for it, and it's sad to see someone who obviously knows a lot about movies and has a great passion for it missing so much of what is in the film. In conclusion, he said he didn't hate the film, which is good to know. But it does seem like he's being overly critical, yet without much substance to back up his criticism. He says time and time again the movie's stupid, not really explaining why. He finally then starts talking about things like the fact that the mech suit had a abnormally large knife with it. Well, why wouldn't it have a knife? The mech suit is based on the anatomics of a human being. Why wouldn't you have a melee weapon that went with it? And why wouldn't it be properly scaled to the size of the mech hand? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know why he's hung up on it. And then he makes fun of Michelle Rodriguez at the end, painting up her face and her aircraft with the Na'vi war paint. I can kind of see maybe you might think it's a little silly for her to paint her face, but, she's going into battle. Why not paint your face? But the aircraft makes complete sense. Why would she not? She needs to designate somehow to the Na'vi that she's on their side. They're flying around killing every single man-made aircraft that they see. Why wouldn't they shoot her down unless they had some way of figuring out that she was on their side? You do this in every single combat wartime scenario. In World War II, that's why we had a star on our planes. That's why the Germans had a swastika on their Messerschmitts, and it's why the Zeros had the rising sun emblem on them. So this makes absolute sense. It would be weird and a plot hole, really, for that not to be there. So, like so many of these arguments, this is nonsense. He again turns back to talking about these individuals that are so obsessed with the film and are depressed, getting depressed over it. And like I said, he has a point, but again, this really feels like he's not criticizing the film. He's criticizing its fame. He's criticizing how much people have gone nuts over it. And that may be a valid point, but not to criticize the film itself. But rather to criticize the audience. There are films that I think people overreacted to and thought were a lot better than they were, and in some cases, that may be the same with Avatar. But that doesn't mean that I don't think Avatar is great. It quickly became one of my favorite films. I think it's definitely one of the most entertaining films of the decade. And I think it's going to be remembered for what it is. A great story, not necessarily original, but a great story, a great execution, with a lot of great characters that people really like. The technology that has been designed for it, that is all new and fresh now, won't be 10 years from now, but I think Avatar will still be a movie people watch and enjoy and love. Also, finally, something he talked about at the very end there, talking about, hey, do you really think Cameron's going to donate the profits from Avatar to help, like indigenous people and stuff? Well, there's actually a movement to get that going. And actually, Cameron has already appeared in support of the indigenous tribes of Canada, the First Nations, and their fights against the tar sands in Alberta, Canada. For those of you who don't know, this is one of the largest ecological disasters in the world. Basically, they're tearing up an area of the boreal forest in Canada the size of the state of Florida, irreparably destroying that ecosystem and poisoning the groundwater and the ecosystem in general there. You can basically think of it as the BP oil spill, only on land and going much slower. But this crap is extremely dirty. It gets into the water, it goes downstream, and it's poisoning a lot of the indigenous peoples of that region. The cancer rates in those communities are far, far higher than average, and nobody had really been doing much about it. It is gaining notoriety, and Cameron is helping that, and hopefully will continue to help defend and support not just that fight against blind corporate aggression and exploitation, but elsewhere throughout the world, because there are many instances of this going on right now on our planet, and everybody should be more aware of that and should start doing something to help address it, even if it's just talking about it and thinking about it, because that's the first step. And the last thing I'll say is he makes a little quip at the end about,
you want them to make more? Oh.
Referring to sequels of Avatar. And I'm very interested to see the sequel, because it's going to answer a lot of the questions I have about my ideas of the subtext in the film. It will be interesting to see where they go and what exactly they do. You know, will humans come back? Will they try to wage war on the Na'vi? Will the Na'vi have to keep fighting them? Will this support the idea of war perpetuating a cycle of war? Who knows? We'll just have to see what happens if the next movie is anywhere near as good as this one, or perhaps it'll even be better. Maybe some of the criticisms that Mike had on the film about characters not being as developed as they could have been, maybe Cameron will work on that. I don't know. But I think, as I've said many times, that most people who criticize this film are being mostly unfair to it, and I think that comes from the movie's success, not of any real criticism of the movie itself. And I think that it depends upon you not recognizing so much great stuff that is in this film that I've spent this time exploring with you. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. There's certainly a lot more to talk about. I've never done something like this before. Usually I conduct myself through discussion with people, not through doing a one-sided review type thing like this. But I'm definitely interested in talking with people more. Communication is better when it's a two-way street, not a guy like talking from a podium type thing. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it helped you think about the movie in different ways. Even if you liked the movie, maybe you never bothered to really think about it on any deeper level than just a special effects film. But I think the movie's great. Definitely one of my favorite of the decade, and it will always be one of my favorite films to watch over and over again. I think the movie's got great replay value. And, on a personal note, maybe the reason I like this film is because so many of the messages are in line with my own personal beliefs and my own leanings, political, socially, ethically, whatever. And maybe that has to do with the reason why some people don't like it and are criticizing it, because they don't think the same way. I don't know. That hasn't really been something I've explored much yet, or that anyone I've talked to really has explored yet. But anyway, let me know what you think. Take care.